Missouri middle school forces student to remove Virginity Rocks sweatshirt. Apparently, it might offend the sensibilities of sexually promiscuous students. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we're talking about activists working hard to remove everything good from schools because of, white supremacy. Plus, the latest NAEP scores are out, and it's not looking good for Wisconsin students. Way to go, DPI Tony Evers. But we start in Missouri, where some kids are in hot water for wearing Virginity Rocks sweatshirts to school. Now, this story, every now and then, a story comes down the road that really gets me annoyed, and this is one of them. Because it just goes one of those shows that crystallizes absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt just how far down the rabbit hole our public schools have gone. So now you have kids wearing a sweatshirt. It says Virginity Rocks. Like, hey, virginity's cool. Now, it's not vulgar. There's no body parts. The shirt is not exposing any skin. It has no vulgarity on it. It just says quite benignly, Virginity Rocks. Hey, in my opinion, virginity is a good thing. The kid was dragged to the principal's office where he was told he must remove the sweatshirt or he would get into all sorts of trouble, possibly even suspended. If he ever wears that back again, he can be suspended for wearing it. Please explain to me, other than this, explain to me what a possible offense you can take from that, unless your entire mission in the school is to completely do away with virginity. Virginity has become an evil word. 25, 30, 40 years ago, if you showed up with a t-shirt that said screwing rocks or something more vulgar, right, you would have had the same treatment done to you. Now we have gone so far the other way that the word virginity itself is kind of an anti-sex slur, even if he wants to be a virgin. How dare he promote the idea that virginity is a good thing? I hope you understand how radically Orwellian this is. This should be a national story. It really should, because it really shows you beyond a shadow of a doubt what the mission is. The mission is not responsible sex. It's not safe sex. It's not giving kids biologically accurate sex. It is doing away with traditional values, traditional virtues, especially chastity.
Well, and poor 13-year-old London Piklowski, the student who had the shirt, actually tried to explain that it's not really what it seems. It's not like he was purposely going out there to make some political statement for everyone. He was just wearing the gift that he got from his friend. Check this out.
Whenever they told me to take it off, I was like, wait, why am I taking this off? Because it's like a positive message.
He got the sweatshirt from his friend Davis as a birthday gift, who says it was an instant hit with classmates.
They like it.
Yeah, kids were asking me if I could buy them one.
So there you have it. I mean, again, these kids are being treated as if they're somehow vicious offenders, that they've done something that has been terribly offensive. Note also, not a single kid in the school protested this. They all wanted to, and there you have the rub, right? Using rub in its primary context. There you have the rub. Other kids wanted that t-shirt too, sweatshirt. Other kids said, where can I get one? How can I get one of these, right? The idea here is it just drives this public school absolutely crazy. That such old-fashioned values, such traditional Judeo-Christian values would be honored this way. And they're going to do everything they can to stop it. The administration's offended by this. The total sex all the time, any barrier to sex is somehow puritanical BS that these teachers in the schools are provoking kids with. It's got to stop. This is a huge, huge tell from them. Very seldom do you have something that is so obviously revelatory about what their main ambition is.
Yeah, it was initially a social studies teacher who pulled poor London aside, and you can tell that as a social justice warrior teacher right there. But the thing is, of course, the district hid behind their dress code, which prohibits students from wearing clothing with statements advocating immoral, illegal, sexual, or violent behavior.
Stop. Repeat that again. Here's what the dress code says are problematic things. Read that again.
Statements that advocate immoral, illegal, sexual, or violent behavior.
Now think about that for a second. Is it immoral? To the left, yes. To the left, to promote virginity is now immoral. That's all I can think of. It's not illegal. Got to cross that one off. Is it sexual? Yes. To the left, advocating against sex or advocating for virginity is sexual to them. as far as they're concerned, it's a sexual choice, right? It is the only way you could make this fit. It's immoral because it seems to be anti-sex, but it's also sexual, right? Again, let me read this. Here's what the dress code says. That anything will go if it advocates immorality, illegality, sexuality, or violent behavior, or things that expose the back, the stomach, and the buttocks.
Girls always wear like shorts that you can like see their butt, or like shirts like showing like all their stomach. But teachers don't yell at them for that. So why can't we wear these?
Girls do flout in the name of their sexuality. You wouldn't tell a 13-year-old girl to cover her midriff because there you are mansplaining. There you are stomping on her nurturing, budding sexual identity. You're slut shaming the girl who shows a little ass or a little belly, right? And so this is what this is. To them, a Virginity Rocks sweatshirt is a form of slut shaming. It shows you, again, I've repeated myself. I'm going to stop now. But this is one of those, we get one of these maybe every 6 months. That is so far above the pale, even though it seems like a minor thing, so far above the pale, it's a tell, right? It's one of those moments when the mask is completely ripped off, and you see these progressive educrats for what they are, and it is not pretty.
And just as a reminder to mom and dad out there, this is in Missouri.
Yeah, ironically, the show me state.
The show me state.
Yeah, just don't show me. Show me all the bare butts, all the bare bare midriffs you want, but just don't show me that Virginity Rocks sweatshirt.
And we have more bad news because all over the country we have activists who are trying to do all that they can to get rid of all that is good about American education, if there is anything left. And it's all in the name, of course, of white supremacy. So we have a story that basically kind of just breaks down several instances that happen across the nation. And we're just going to kind of retell them a little bit for the public if they haven't heard them before. Some of them we've talked about already on this show, but it just kind of paints a picture for exactly what is happening in our school systems. So in Washington, we've talked about this one, where Seattle Public Schools proposed math ethnic studies, since, math has been and continues to be used to oppress and marginalize people and communities of color. And so curriculum had been pushed through the school district's ethnic studies program manager, Tracy Castro-Gill. She is a hoot. She says, "I'm an educator of color in Seattle whose job is anti-racist work within the school district. Seattle is very white. Nearly 70%. It's also one of the most liberal cities in the U.S., and these liberal white Seattleites hate being called racist. But the thing is, a lot of them are."
And that's what you should pay attention to with the Tracy Castro-Gills of the world. You could be the whitest, most woke, most progressive school district in the whole world, and because you're white, 70%, you're still racist.
And she goes on her blog, This is the Real Tell. She talks about her white mother and her Hispanic father, and apparently they have a strained relationship. But she says, I'm a fairly radical atheist and consider myself a far-left anarchist who fights for racial justice. She is in the school system. My parents are both Trump-supporting Republicans, and there it is. Of course, it's white supremacy.
Well, and the other thing that gets me, how can you be an anarchist and fighting for something as structural as racial justice?
It's just terms.
It is. This is just what it is.
Noun,
Look,
verb,
I hope you
object.
understand what's going on in Seattle here. They're basically telling you that unless you completely concede every aspect of your kid's life and education to what social justice warriors want, you are still a racist. You can't be. Got news for you, white people. You can't be woke enough to solve this. You have to turn complete control, fiscally in particular, turn it over to social justice warriors like Tracy Castro-Gill. Let her spend your money any way she sees fit. And the way she's going to do it, she's going to spend your money, your taxpayer money, giving your kids a non-math education in math class that's all about race. That's the only way you win. And how about Maryland?
Yes, we're going to go from West Coast to East
Yeah,
Coast.
Maryland. I'll take
Maryland.
this one, right? Howard County Schools. The Howard County School Board in Maryland has just has a plan to bus 7,300 students. We're back to 1972. The more progressive we get, the further back in time they go, right? They're already bringing back segregation. They're building separate dorms and giving kids separate graduation ceremonies, like it's 1950. And when it comes to our way to make kids more inclusive and diverse, let's go back to 1970s busing, right? Howard County School Board has a plan to bus 7,300 kids out of their neighborhoods to adjust the number of impoverished students in each school, despite no discernible constituency asking for it. No one, not even the poorest neighborhoods, are asking for this. They would move students based on how many received free and reduced meal plans in the neighborhood. So they're going to take 7,300 kids. Do you know the logistics of moving 7,300 kids and the cost of this? For what? For what exactly? The so-called good schools aren't teaching kids really well. So you're shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic.
And they are, and that sank. So what happens is Howard County actually has the most integrated school system in the entire state. Already. So the county, like their resolution says that any school with less than 40% white students is defined as segregated. And in Howard County, there are 39% are white, so if it's less than 40, 39 less than 40, that means they're already being segregated.
According to their own math. If math mattered, Seattle, right?
Exactly.
If actually knowing math mattered. I'll throw the New York one. We've talked about this, Katie. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, basically, we talked about this many times, and you could put New York City and put any number of stories in there, but they just have voted and said, you know what, we're going to end the gifted and talented program because too many white kids.
Too many white kids.
And it's 4-year-olds. You know, they take the test to kind of see where they're at when they're 4, and too many
too many white and Asian kids. Ooh. Let's be clear that white means Asian too. And why does that not offend the social justice sensibilities, right? Asian kids, because they have high success rates, are treated like they were white kids. I tell you, you would think the Asian community would be really angry about this, and they have a right, because everything the left does, right, to marginalize as and tar and feather white kids, you just are including Asians in that group as well as an excuse to segregate those kids and punish them for their achievement.
All right, and I want to do one more, because if we did East Coast, West Coast, we got to do in the Midwest, and we have Minnesota, where the Eastern Carver County, back in July, which is 87% white, hired someone named Dr. Muhammad Khalifa to do an equity audit. And they also hired a Dr. Keith Brooks as a director of equity, who compared himself to Trayvon Martin. So if you know about that. And Khalifa was paid $90,000. Brooks was paid $138,000. And they basically said, this poor girl in all these schools, and this is happening because of this whole equity education they're getting, this audit they took. One mom talked about how there's a girl who came home from school and cried and said, I wish I wasn't white, because of all this equity stuff.
But that's a win. That's a win for the schools.
It's a win for
the
the
more
school.
White kids wish they weren't white, right? The more white kids wish they weren't white, cry over their whiteness, hate themselves for being white, the better the system works, right? It is designed to artificially make non-white kids feel good. Not because you've achieved anything, not because you've scored well, but simply because you're not white, you feel good. You are educated, you are perfect, you are ready to go to college because you're not white. And if you are white and come out of these schools not hating and despising yourself, your culture, and your country, then they have failed you.
And the common thread throughout all these stories, all these examples, is obviously that, you know, we're a white supremacist country, and that this is all happening by activists at the school board level, at the county education level, and then if you want to go to Wisconsin, we're talking about it at the state level.
At the state level. Wisconsin has the widest achievement gap on nation. And that makes perfect sense why, right? If you look at where we're spending money, we're spending huge amounts of money in places like Milwaukee, inner city schools, where there's no discipline, where there is a complete breakdown of family structure, where these kids are coming to school with all sorts of psychological and social and family issues that have been utterly unadjudicated, right? These kids are, and where teachers have even less control over the classroom than they do in suburban schools. And then despite all of that money dump, these kids are doing worse, right? And notice it's white supremacy. Because in typically white schools where there are discipline, there are consequences for your action, where kids have a support network at home, right? All those kids seem to be functioning reasonably well. But it's the inner city kids. And so what does that prove to all social justice warriors? More racism. Rather than emulate what's going on in the successful schools, white or Asian, right? Hard work, discipline, commitment of parents, study, right? Consequences for not showing up, consequences for not behaving, consequences for not getting decent grades. All of that, rather than replicating that, because that's just white supremacy. It's funny, we're educating some white kids and Asian kids really well, but to borrow the methods would be white supremacism. So let's just keep our failing schools and blame it all on the white supremacist system and ask basically what? For more money? So you can hire more people like Khalif at $138,000 a year?
Well, basically, you know what it comes down to is we just need to do better. And you can listen for yourself, Executive Director Spencer Bonney saying we need to do better.
Or what the data suggests about Wisconsin is that we need to do better.
Take a look at this graph. Black students in 4th and 8th grade had the lowest scores in reading. Also, the same scenario in math. Test results given to 4th and 8th graders showed a wide gap between white and black students.
Despite what the data may tell us about what's going on in Brown County, we need to do better. There shouldn't be gaps to begin with.
Bonnie says there are things teachers can work on, but parents must play a big role as well.
When kids come from situations in which mom and dad or other caregivers are simply not available to ensure that they have all the support, that plays a large role as well.
Oh, and my favorite, the parents have to get more involved. Well, let me hang on just a second here. These are the same public schools that have told us we can't see the kids' curriculum. This is the same public school that's told us that we have no right to help our kids with their math homework. It's the same public schools that said you will not have the opportunity as parents to opt your kids out of sex ed. These are the same schools that have told us, right, that leave the testing and the curriculum to us. Oh, but when it comes to the gap, that's on you, mom and dad.
Of course it is, except for the fact, if we think logically, because this is a good instance where if you look at Wisconsin, because of who we currently have as governor, it's very important for your own state, wherever you may be. The test results, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP scores, NAEP, showed actually no change in the past 10 years for Wisconsin students, 4th and 8th graders. Who has been the head of the Department of Public Instruction for the past 10 years?
For all that 10 years, the superintendent of public schools was Tony Evers.
And now what is he doing?
A complete empty suit. An ideologue who has a big carved out place in his soul where education should go and has been filled up with politics. He's now the governor of the state of Wisconsin. And no one blamed him for the horrible student results when he was the superintendent of public schools. He blamed the governor. Now he's the governor and the former DPI superintendent, which means, Tony, like 99% of this is on you, buddy. How about stepping down? You took over the system from Walker. You made it worse, not better. Go away, Tony Evers.
Go away, Tony Evers. All right, well, that's going to put a neat little bow on this Wednesday. If you would like to support this program, please consider joining our Patriot Club for just $25 a month. Visit drdukeshow.com to get started.
And if you have a small business, or a big one for that matter, and you would like to partner with us for opportunity in advertising, visit freedomproject.com/advertise. freedomproject.com/advertise to learn more. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. And go away, Tony Evers.